Is your diet the real reason you can't lose fat? Recently, thousands of South Asians applied to get their diet reviewed by me on this channel, and most of them were making mistakes that would make it very impossible to lose fat. So today, I'm gonna review 3 people's diets and show you how to fix their diet problems that you probably have too. I'll be using some simple tricks that have helped me and my clients lose a shit ton of fat. And if you want your diet reviewed for the next video, just use the sign up link below. All right, let's jump into the first one. So current body weight is 73 kgs, goal body weight 55 kgs, lose about 18 kgs, not lost any weight so far. That's all right. Biggest struggle right now is no control over sugar cravings. In terms of breakfast, we're having overnight protein oats or scrambled eggs and protein toast, 2 slices of that. Sounds pretty solid, pretty high in protein. Overnight oats is also a great way to prep all your meals, or all your breakfasts for the week, because it's just super quick, super easy. Have a bunch of clients who also make overnight oats. Lunch, we are having 1 cup of rice, some dal, sabzi, 1 portion, salad, 100 grams of sauteed low-fat paneer. Low-fat paneer is actually a great choice, especially if you're vegetarian, if you want to keep your calories a little bit lower, protein a little bit higher. Dinner, scrambled eggs with 2 slices of protein bread or makhana chaat with 160 grams of Greek yogurt. Only thing is, it's pretty similar to breakfast. I have nothing against this. Like, I myself have the same shit for almost every meal every day. But if you're someone who needs variety, you don't have to force yourself to have the same stuff for both breakfast and dinner. So if you wanted some variety, I would just encourage you to experiment a little bit more with dinner. The other thing is, with the second option for dinner, if you wanted to make it higher in protein, slightly lower in calories, you can replace the Greek yogurt with either low-fat Greek yogurt or zero-fat Greek yogurt. In terms of snacks or drinks during the day, we got fruits, we got dried fruits, and we got Diet Coke. So fruits, great choice. Usually very high in volume, low in calories. High in volume means that you're consuming a big amount of food, but you're not actually consuming that many calories. So really great for fat loss. Dried fruits, on the other hand, are kind of the opposite because it's less volume, but tends to be more calorie dense. So you're not getting yourself very full, but you're consuming more calories. So it's not something you necessarily have to cut out of the diet, but I would just be more cautious about having that in because it's only going to make it harder for you to maintain a calorie deficit. Diet Coke, on the other hand, I love that because you can satisfy your sugar cravings. You can get basically the same taste as normal Coke, but for 0 calories. You're not actually impacting your calorie deficit in any way by having that Diet Coke. Also, the caffeine from the Diet Coke acts as a natural appetite suppressant, so that in itself will help reduce your hunger, which again helps with the fat loss. Right now, you mentioned that you use a measuring scale, tracking calories using MyFitnessPal. That is great. Honestly, one of the biggest things that a lot of beginners miss is the tracking. Because if you don't track your foods, you have absolutely no idea how many calories you're consuming, how much protein you're consuming, and then you're basically shooting in the dark. You're hoping for the best. We don't want that. You need to enter a calorie deficit, and the only way you can guarantee that is by tracking your foods and actually knowing with certainty how many calories you're consuming. So you've already done that first step. Getting to the next stage of that process where you can actually lose weight is going to be even simpler for you now that you're already tracking. You're going to need something to actually target. First thing you got to do is figure out what your calorie target is. Okay, so what I've done here is I've gone to TDE calculator and I've entered your values. So your body stats, your female, 23, 73 kg, height 160 centimeters, activity, heavy exercise, 67 days a week. And then I just hit calculate. And what I get here is your maintenance calories. So theoretically, if you had 2,500 calories per day, you would maintain your current body weight. If you want to lose weight, you need to eat below this amount. So a good starting point would be 2,000 calories. The reason I say starting point is because this is simply an estimate. We have to put it into practice and see how your body responds. So start off by shooting for 2,000 calories every day, track your body weight every day, and see how your weight changes after a week. If your weight is still the same, you need to lower your calories further and keep going. If you are losing weight, then you don't actually have to change anything. You've hit the perfect calorie deficit target. If you do that, I guarantee you will start losing weight. To get over your sugar cravings, here's a little hack that I use with a lot of my clients. The idea is a daily calorie buffer. You want to allocate about 10 to 20% of your daily calories towards this calorie buffer where you can eat whatever you want and satisfy your sugar craving. So right now at your calorie target of 2000, you can allocate about 200 to 400 calories to eat whatever sweet stuff you want. As long as you hit your overall calorie target of 2000, you will still lose the same amount of fat. It helps to really stick with the diet in the long term. Otherwise, what happens in a lot of cases is you force yourself to not have any sugar, you build up those cravings over weeks, and then a lot of people just rebound. They gain all that weight back, potentially even more. So to get over that, you satisfy those sugar cravings on a regular basis. Let's jump into the next one. If you also want your diet reviewed for the next video, just use the sign up link below. What do we have here? Current weight is 152 pounds. Goal weight is 130 pounds, so lose about 22 pounds. We've lost 8 pounds so far. That's a good sign. Biggest struggle at the moment is I don't know how much to eat specifically at a macros level to eat enough without starving myself. Okay. So let's actually look at what your diet looks like. Right now, breakfast, overnight oats, again, seems to be a popular choice with a lot of the diet review applications that I got through. Chia, Greek yogurt, milk, oats, protein powder, and flax seeds. Okay. With the Greek yogurt, just like the last diet review, you want to keep that fat-free or low-fat. With the milk, same logic. Go for either skim milk or semi-skim milk, oat milk, almond milk. All of these are lower-calorie options which have the same volume. Like with something like whole milk, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that there are better alternatives if you're trying to prioritize keeping your calories as low as possible without sacrificing the volume of food, the amount of food you're having. In terms of lunch, we're having rice, any Indian curry or dals. I try to add protein like chicken, eggs, paneer, shrimp. Okay. So from your choice of words, because you mentioned that you try to add protein, I'm going to assume you simply aren't having enough protein. You got to make it a priority. All right. Don't simply try to add. You have to get a good chunk of protein. If you're not tracking your nutrition, just think about having at least a fist-sized portion of lean protein with every meal. Prioritize it because protein in itself will help keep you fuller for longer. With the curry and the dal, I would just be cautious about how much oil you're using. A lot of South Asians just tend to throw in half a bottle of oil into whatever curry they make, so just be cautious of that, all right? Try and use as little oil as possible just because it is so low in volume, so dense in calories, it just really sneaks up on you. Dinner is same as lunch, so same advice applies there. In terms of snacks, we got cottage cheese pudding with stevia or fruit, sometimes sugary treats like cookies or ice cream. Okay, I have nothing against this, but if you're having both in combination, that's going to be pretty calorie dense, and because these foods aren't very filling, that's going to mean it's going to make it a lot harder for you to actually feel full, which is why you might feel like you're actually starving yourself right now if you're trying to be in a calorie deficit, but a lot of your calories are coming from foods that aren't keeping you very full. Okay, and you mentioned that your sweet cravings are high, so here's something I do. I try and meet in the middle here. Go for something like a protein bar, for example. If you're craving a sugary treat, that way you're getting some protein into your diet, which will help keep you fuller for longer, but it's also not as calorie dense as one of these options. And at the same time, you're satisfying those sugar cravings. So you're meeting somewhere in the middle. Next thing you can do is stuff like diet drinks, like Diet Coke, for example. 0 calories, right? But it still helps to satisfy the sugar cravings. So these are just tools I can give you, but for any of that to work, you need to have a strong foundation. And right now, you have a very weak foundation because you said that you're not tracking your nutrition. You used to track it, which is really good. I'm not sure why you stopped, but let's get back onto tracking because that is the only way we can know with certainty how many calories you're consuming, how much protein you're consuming. And with that, you get way more flexibility with your diet because like I mentioned for the first person, you can have something like a daily calorie buffer where you give yourself an allowance of sweet treats that you can have, but you're not going overboard to the point where having those sweet treats prevents you from losing weight. And again, the way you can actually know that for a fact is by tracking your foods. Previously, you mentioned that time and stress has been an issue. If I'm to guess, that's maybe why you stopped tracking your foods in the past. One way to get around that is meal prepping. Because when you meal prep, not only are you saving cooking time, but you're also saving tracking time. Because if you think about it, you only have to track your foods on the day that you prep your meals, right? If you're cooking every day, you also have to track every day. If you're cooking once for an entire week's worth of meals, you only have to track your food on that day itself. You're saving a shit ton of time either way. All right, let's jump into the third one. Current body weight is 180 pounds. Goal body weight is 140 pounds. Lose about 40 pounds. We have not lost any weight so far. What is your biggest struggle with your diet right now? I start the week with good intentions, meal prepping, eating clean, but by midweek, I get busy or stressed and end up grabbing quick, less healthy options. It's frustrating because I know what I should be eating, but I have a hectic schedule, so I get tired. Okay. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of the right stuff already in your situation, because if you're busy, if you're stressed, meal prepping really helps because you save time. But the thing that does stand out to me is because you said eating clean. Usually when people say that, at least with the clients that I've worked with, that means they completely cut out sugar because they think they have to in order to lose weight, or they completely cut out carbs because they think they have to. That is not the case at all. All that matters is you being in a calorie deficit. And as you've seen from this video so far, you can absolutely have some sugar in your diet. You can absolutely have carbs with every single meal. Technically, your entire diet could be just sugar or just junk food, and you would still lose weight if you were in a calorie deficit. Of course, it wouldn't be the best for your health, and I definitely wouldn't recommend it. But my point is, all that matters is a calorie deficit. I've even had a client, when he first started out, he was having loads of junk food. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. The only changes that we made for the first few weeks was just reducing the amount of food that he ate from those places. Changing from Coke to Diet Coke. And just from that, he lost about 10 pounds in the first few weeks. Let's have a look at your meals, right? Okay, so if you're at work, you have protein milk or coffee. If you're at home, you make yourself an egg omelet and protein coffee. If you want to make that less calorie dense, I would just suggest you pick a certain type of milk that is low in calories, like I mentioned before. With lunch, home cooked food, chicken and rice, potato rice, or if I order from outside, I eat shawarma or a salad bowl. Okay, the home cooked options seem pretty solid to me. If you're eating from outside, shawarma tends to be pretty deadly in terms of calories. Like usually upwards of 800,000 calories, potentially even more, depending on like how much sauce they chuck in there as well, how much oil they use. There's nothing wrong with having a shawarma. It's just that if you're having it on a regular basis, it's going to make it pretty difficult for you to enter a calorie deficit. That's the only thing I'd watch out for. Dinner, cool, same thing as lunch. In terms of snacks and drinks, you're having sugar-free Red Bull. If you're home, you grab a glass of milk. Again, milk, I'd make sure that it's something that's a little bit lower in fat, helps you keep the calories lower. Peanuts, bananas, tortillas, chips, salsa, strawberries, or mango. Okay, nothing wrong with peanuts, but probably not the best option if you're trying to lose weight, just because it's so low in volume and tends to be pretty calorie dense. Strawberries, great, you're already having that. Mango, great. Big issue is I don't know how to count my calories, so even if I'm eating right most of the times, I don't know why I'm not losing weight. So you've brought up a few issues with your diet, right? Number one is you don't have much time, you're feeling stressed, and you also don't know how to count your calories, you don't know if you're eating right most of the times, and you don't know why you're not losing weight. This can all be solved by doing one thing. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you track your nutrition, because that is the only way you can know with certainty how many calories you're consuming. And once you know that, you can guarantee your weight loss. You start tracking your body weight every day, and then you can see whether the changes you're making are actually working or not. Eating right or eating healthy does not equate to losing weight. All you have to do is get your calories low enough to a certain point where you can actually start seeing that weight go down. Everyone has a certain point where they will start losing weight. Once you start tracking your foods, I would highly recommend you continue with the meal prep, but make some changes. Make those foods a little bit more enjoyable, because right now you mentioned eating clean. I'm going to assume that maybe you're not really enjoying a lot of that diet, which is what makes it a bit difficult to stick to, which is what makes it tempting to go for easier, more unhealthy options. Look at meals that you'd actually enjoy. That way you can actually stick with your diet in the long term, so that when you lose weight, you will also keep it off forever. You mentioned that you don't know how to count your calories. Don't worry. Process is actually really simple. Let me show you. What you got to do first is... Drop my food scale. Fuck. What you got to do first is get yourself a food scale. And when you're meal prepping, all you have to do is weigh out the ingredients that you're cooking, and then get your phone, download a nutrition tracker like MyFitnessPal, MacroFactor, HealthyFindMe. All of them work. All of them do the same thing, except don't download an AI calorie tracking app. Fuck AI calorie tracking apps. Just download a normal, old school nutrition tracker. And then all you have to do is track every food item that you're cooking. So let's say you're cooking some chicken and rice, okay? You weigh out the chicken on here. Oh, it's saying 100 grams of chicken breast. So then you can either type it up onto your nutrition tracker, search for that item, and then say, okay, I'm having 100 grams of chicken breast. Or you could also just scan the package. So if you're getting like some chicken breast from fucking Sainsbury's or whatever, you just scan the barcode on the pack with your nutrition tracker, and then boom, the food item just pops up on your phone, just like that. And then you just say, okay, 100 grams. And then you do the same thing with your rice, and that's it. It's like keeping a diary of the foods that you eat throughout the day. All you have to do is just log it, and the app, the nutrition tracker, will tell you what the nutrition is in your food. It'll tell you how many calories you're consuming, how much protein you're consuming. It is not a complicated process at all. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, people had to do it painfully. They'd have to like read the nutrition label on every food item and then add that shit up. You don't have to do that anymore. It is so much easier today. And here's the other thing that also really helps in your situation. Because if you don't want to have one of your meal prep meals for whatever reason, you can go for a ready-made meal, something from a grocery store that is just already pre-cooked. You don't have time, you're stressed, you just want to grab something. You can track that as well. A lot of them have a barcode on them. So just scan that with your nutrition tracker, and then it'll pop up, and then you just add that to your food diary. If you were to take away anything from this video, go track your foods. If you want to have your diet reviewed for the next one, just use the sign up link below. I'll see you later.